Hi guys, so I wanted to do a video about or based on mental health and parenting, really off the back of a video that an Instagram friend of mine has posted that has had a really tough time because she put out a post on social media. She has an Etsy shop where she uses her creativity to express emotions in a positive light. She's also a mind media volunteer, and she's very open, which is how it should be, about mental health. However, she put a post out last week and she ended up having a phone call from the head teacher of her children's school saying that they would like her to go in because another parent at the school had put in a concern that maybe she might need some extra support. So she was called into the school and had to discuss what was going on with her, because she'd been feeling very down, having suicidal thoughts. So this person obviously thought it necessary to alert the school. Now, in my mind, that is not the way to deal with things. You know, if ever you see something like that and you're genuinely concerned, the approach would be to go to the person. We're not frightening people. We might have a mental health diagnosis, but that doesn't mean that, you know, we're terrifying people to approach. At the end of the day, if this girl is open enough and honest enough to put out her accounts in a public manner and on social media and within her own business, the likelihood is that that person is going to be very open to talk to you too, and most probably be very grateful. However, going to the school and to the head teacher is not the best course of action, because what that would do is basically make that person feel like that they're being accused of being a danger to their children. And I'm pretty sure that most of us would take it that way. I know I would. And that is really not helpful, because just because people have a mental health issue, that does not mean that people are not capable of being good parents. That does not mean that we are a danger to our children. For most people, their children is what keeps them going. I know my daughter does. You know, none of us would want to put our children in that situation where they're bereaved through suicide. It happens, of course it does. You know, suicide is an act of extreme pain for which there seems like there's no other outlet. It's not the act of a coward, which a lot of people seem to think. It's the result of extreme pain, constant, going on and on, where it just seems like there's no way out. So yes, it happens, but there are so many more people that struggle with suicidal feelings and thoughts that don't act on them. Thinking the thought doesn't mean that you're going to go and act on it. It doesn't mean that you're a danger to your children. And I think that sort of behaviour, to go and tell a school to have to then be called in and explain yourself, you know, is not on, and it's not the right way to go about things. It's really, really not helpful. It would only make a situation worse. If you're concerned about someone, please go to them. Go to them and ask them, talk to them, ask them if there's anything you can do, if there's any way that you can help them. You know, if you feel that strongly concerned about the children's welfare, you know, you could even ask whether you could take the children for that parent for a few hours after school to give them a break. You know, is there any way logistically that you can help? But just going to a head teacher and saying that you have concerns about this parent, when the school can't do anything for that parent, it then becomes a concern about the child, which is an assumption and not a very fair one at that. It's not a helpful course of action. You know, if after talking to the parent there are real concerns, then obviously there's other things that you can do. Obviously, if there are real concerns for a child's safety, then steps need to be taken. But just assuming from a social media post because somebody's depressed that there are concerns for the children that then need to be taken to the head of the school before speaking to that person themselves about how they're feeling and getting a grasp on the situation itself, it's not very helpful. You know, there's a lot of assumption and there's a lot of stigma that people with mental health issues aren't good parents, or that we can't look after our children properly. You know, after I had my daughter, when I was discharged, the nurse that discharged me, when she was talking to me about contraception and what I was going to do, looked at me and said, well, do you think somebody in your position should be having more children anyway? Pardon, what? Position? What? You know, she should never have said that to me. Just because I've got bipolar, that doesn't mean I'm not a good parent. You know, I'm actually very good friends with my health visitor now, who used to be my health visitor for me and my daughter. Obviously she's not anymore, but we're now very good friends, and she often says to me, Katie, you're one of the best parents I know. Not that I ever believe it, but you know, I will do anything for my little girl. If I'm depressed, I will literally still make myself do things with her to the best of my ability. But the truth of the matter is that she is going to grow up learning that mummy does have a mental health condition. Obviously I don't force that on her now, but sometimes she knows that mummy's a bit sad, because there's no point in shielding them from it, because they're going to grow up with it. Unfortunately, I hate it, I don't like it, but that's going to be, that's what it is, and that's how it is, and there's nothing that we can do about it. But it does not mean that our children need protecting from us. I would move heaven and earth for my little girl. You know, I will give her everything I possibly can. If anything, it makes me, you know, my mental health makes me more caring, more empathetic. I'm also a lot more tuned into her at the moment. She's coming across as quite an anxious child, and I'm already on the ball with that. I've already spoken to the school because I'm tuned into it, and if anything goes anywhere with her, I will be on it quickly and I will not let it drop, and it will be sorted. So in a lot of ways, you know, it's a positive thing in some ways. It makes us more aware. It doesn't make us bad people. It doesn't make us bad parents. You know, just because we're depressed, the schools don't need alerting. If anything, come to us, ask us, see how we are. Ask if you could take the kids for a couple of hours. Ask if, you know, we'd like a cup of tea, would we like a chat, is there anything we'd like to talk about? And then, like I say, if there's concerns, then there are other routes that can be taken, but don't take that step as a first step, because it's such a horrible, horrible feeling to be judged in that way, because that's what it is. It's a judgment, it's an assumption that because somebody's depressed that there needs to be a concern raised for the children, and that's not how it should be. So maybe I just want to say, be a bit mindful about these things. Don't make snap judgments. Don't just assume that, you know, because somebody acts in a certain way that the children are in danger, because it's really not always the case, and it's just being a little bit open-minded and have a little bit of care and consideration about the way that we deal with things.